What is going on, everyone? My name is Andy. Welcome back to another FPL video. In this one, it's some of my early thoughts ahead of the Game Week 35 deadline. So I'm going to talk about the situation for double game weeks for the rest of the season, go through Liverpool winning the title, what that means for minutes, performance and stuff like that, Saka, Mbeumo, cheap forwards, and a look at my own team as well ahead of that deadline on Friday. So if you enjoyed the video, make sure to give it a like, hit that subscribe button. Let's get into it. So there's going to be a lot of questions around double game weeks this week. When will they happen? Which teams will be involved? And more importantly, when will we know whether they're going to happen or not? So on the first point, if they happen, it will be double game week 36. And any teams that double that week would then blank in game week 37. In terms of the teams that could be involved, Spurs, Villa, Man City, Bournemouth, Crystal Palace and Wolves. But it's worth saying there is no guarantee we will have any doubles whatsoever. So we could have 0 teams doubling in 36, we could have 2, we could have 4, or we could have 6. We're going to have to wait for more information. So if you can, hold on to your transfers until we get that news. When will we know? Nobody knows at this point, but I'd be surprised if we don't know before the Game Week 35 deadline, because if they leave it until afterwards, there's not long until Game Week 36 in terms of rearranging games, letting fans know about travel and stuff like that. So I think we will find out this week. I just don't know which day. And again, I cannot guarantee that. In terms of why those teams might double, Ben Crellin tweeted last night, Man City versus Bournemouth and Palace versus Wolves will have to move from the weekend of Game Week 37. So if you look at Game Week 37 as it stands, Palace are due to play Wolves at 3 o'clock on Sunday the 18th of May, and Man City are due to play Bournemouth at 7 o'clock on the same day. But Man City and Palace are playing the FA Cup final on the 17th, so the day before. So these matches cannot be played at the time they're currently scheduled for. It doesn't mean they will definitely be brought forward to Game Week 36 though. So either those games will be moved to the midweek of 36, creating a double game week, or they will move to the midweek of Game Week 37. So they could play the FA Cup final on the weekend, then play their fixtures that they were scheduled to play on Sunday on like Wednesday, Thursday, whatever it might be, and then play their Game Week 38 match the following Sunday. So there's no guarantee it gets moved to 36. And actually, Ben tweeted last night and said the midweek of 37 is probably more likely. So as it stands, Ben would be predicting that none of Man City, Bournemouth, Palace or Wolves will double. The fixture in 36 will stay where it is, and the one in 37 will just move to the midweek and stay in Game Week 37. So that's why I'm saying there's no guarantee there's any doubles. With Spurs and Villa, neither of those teams are in the FA Cup, but Spurs have requested that their game in 37 gets brought forward to the Thursday before. So if we look at Game Week 37, the deadline's on Friday. Spurs want their match against Villa, currently scheduled for Sunday, to be brought forward to the Thursday. Now, it's possible FPL could move the deadline to Thursday the 15th of May instead of Friday the 16th, but I don't think they would do that. I think if the Premier League moved this fixture between Villa and Spurs, they would just include it in Game Week 36 and it would be a double. The reason that Spurs want the game moved is if they get to the final of the Europa League. Now, I've already seen some people saying it would be so Spurs for them to get the game moved and then not make the final, but that's a whole nother story. But that's why they want it moved. Interestingly, though, Aston Villa have written to the Premier League to say they don't want that game moved. And I think part of that is probably because when Villa were in the Champions League quarterfinals, their games didn't get moved to help them in Europe. So they kind of probably feel like, why should we be helping Spurs when you didn't help us? So again, Spurs want that fixture moved. It doesn't mean it will get moved. Some people have already asked if Spurs are requesting a fixture to be moved, why aren't Man United? Man United are already playing on the Friday against Chelsea. So that is the first game of Game Week 37. So they've got enough time. If Man United make the Europa League final, they've got enough time or enough gap to play against Chelsea and then play in the final. So that game won't be moved. So it's only the Spurs-Villa one. So we've got possible doubles because of the FA Cup final, but Ben reckons they're more likely to stay in 37. And we've got a possible double between Spurs and Villa because Spurs want their game moved, but Villa don't want it moved. So I don't know what the Premier League will decide. We'll have to wait and see. If these teams double, Spurs would have Palace at home, Villa away. Villa would have Bournemouth away, Spurs at home. City would have Southampton away, Bournemouth at home, which is really nice because you get to play Southampton. Bournemouth would have Villa at home, City away. Palace would have Spurs away, Wolves at home. And then Wolves would have Brighton at home, Palace away. The key reason why I would wait on transfers, if any of these doubles happen, they're pretty nice. I wouldn't see a huge amount of rotation from a lot of these teams. So Spurs would have enough gap before their final, so they wouldn't necessarily be as concerned about rotating players, although for them the Premier League is done, right? So they might still rotate. Villa have only got the Premier League to play for, so they wouldn't rotate that heavily. Martinez, Konza, Rodgers, Watkins, especially if Rashford is out, would play all those games. City are still trying to confirm Champions League places. The gap between Bournemouth at home and the final of the FA Cup would probably be enough. There might be some rotation for teams that are in the FA Cup final potentially. But either way, like Wolves, for example, wouldn't have any need to rotate. So the likes of Cunha, Nuri for Brighton at home, Palace away would look good. City and Crystal Palace maybe a little bit more so. But as I said, there's no guarantee any of these teams double instead. So unfortunately, the key here, or the key advice would be just wait. Wait and see if we get an announcement. We might have no doubles. We might have 6. Like I said, we could have 2, 4, whatever it is. But it could be 0. So those of you looking to, when should I use chips? When should I use my assistant manager, triple captain? You're going to have to wait and see if there's doubles first, and then we can make those decisions. So moving on to worse news, Liverpool have won the Premier League. Congratulations to them. As much as it pains me to say it, they were the best team this season, fully deserved. Questions for FPL already coming in. Will there be a bit of a hangover? Will the minutes be reduced of key players that we've got in our FPL teams? And will the performances drop now there's nothing to play for? So Liverpool have got Chelsea away in 35, followed by Arsenal at home, Brighton away, Palace at home. That's their remaining 4 fixtures. Not amazing, but I don't think in general we would drop Liverpool players for that run of fixtures, especially players like Mo Salah. If they were still in Europe, I'd have serious concerns about the minutes. I know what people would be saying right now if they were still in Europe. Salah's an absolute machine. He starts every game, etc., etc. But I'm telling you now, if the league's over and they've still got Europe, even Salah would be rotated. I'm not saying he would miss every game, but I think he would miss 1 or 2. But because they're not in Europe, I just don't see that happening. Will Salah's minutes be reduced from now until the end of the season more so than they have been at any other point this season? Possibly, but I'm not sure it's enough to sell him. Like, could Chelsea away not be a great game for Liverpool because they're probably going to be celebrating all week? Possibly, but at some point you stop celebrating, right? And I'm already creating the narrative that in Gameweek 36, they've got Arsenal at home. The team that have not necessarily pushed them for most of this season, but the team that have been in second place. I think you want to go there and show Arsenal why you've won the league, especially when it's at home. So I think we'll see a pretty full strength Liverpool team for that Arsenal game. Then it's like a week's rest until 37, a week's rest until 38. Yes, there's probably going to be squad players that Slot will want to give minutes to. It doesn't necessarily mean it'll be from the start. And obviously they're still going to want to get as many points as possible. So I think overall, like Salah, Trent, probably not Van Dijk, to be honest with you. There will be a slight reduction in minutes, probably, but I'm not sure it's going to be massive. The other thing with Salah, and I think he is the key player that people are thinking about, who do you even sell him for? There's not really a need for the money right now. Haaland's not fit. There are rumours that he's back in training. We'll have to wait and see what Pep says this week. Potentially a Salah to Haaland move could be on the cards. But realistically, you're going to need to see Haaland play first to prove his fitness and then bring him in. And there's not that many game weeks remaining. People probably already own Saka, and we're going to talk about him. And if they don't, they're probably not buying him. Nobody wants to buy Cole Palmer right now. And I'm not saying you can't buy a cheaper player. You don't have to spend all your money in FPL if that's not the best way to get points. But I don't think there's anything to kind of say that Salah is now a bad option. Could I see, like, it's not like he's even been doing that well recently anyway, right? If you look at his recent returns since Game Week 30, like 8, 3, 6, 2, and 3 points. He's not been amazing anyway, but I still can't really see too much reason to drop him. We know what he's capable of, and he could do well in most of these fixtures. Like, Chelsea away is not a fixture you'd be worried about playing Salah in generally, right? So the only worry is, will there be a massive drop in performance? And there might be a slight one, but I don't know if it's enough to get rid of him. So if Arsenal were out of Europe and only had the Premier League to worry about, then you could maybe make a case to drop Salah and keep Saka and take some risk. But that's just not the situation we're in right now. So I've got Salah and I don't really see me dropping him, to be honest, because there's not really too many other players that I feel like I've got to have in my team. I think if you want to take that risk, it's a calculated risk, especially with Chelsea away, Arsenal at home next. I think that's fine. But I wouldn't be surprised if he continues doing well for the rest of the season. Like, will Trent get reduced minutes so Bradley can play more? Maybe, because the league is done. But Trent is still first choice. So in my eyes, he will still play the majority of games. Van Dijk will probably start all of them. So will Alisson. Diaz will probably continue to start most games as well. I don't see Darwin Núñez suddenly getting a run of games or anything like that. So I think for the most part, I would keep Liverpool players. If you don't want to buy them because it's Chelsea away and Arsenal home, that's fine. But I think generally I would just hold on to them. So as I've just mentioned him, let's talk about Bukayo Saka next. The remaining 4 fixtures for Arsenal are Bournemouth at home, Liverpool away, Newcastle at home, Southampton away. So on paper, not too bad. Liverpool away is not great, but outside of that, you've got 2 home games and Southampton away. There's no way in normal circumstances you would want to sell Bukayo Saka. So why are people thinking about doing it? Well, there is a high chance that he's benched for that Bournemouth at home game in 35. If you look at the fixtures that Arsenal have got, it's PSG tomorrow, so that's on Tuesday. Then it's Bournemouth at the weekend. Then the second leg against PSG is on the Wednesday. So either side of Bournemouth at home, they've got 2 games against PSG. And if we look at Saka's minutes since he came back, he's only started 1 game, which was against Ipswich. He got that really bad tackle on him from Leif Davis. Then he was benched in the next game. Now, he might have got benched in that next game anyway, but potentially that tackle put something in Arteta's mind to kind of say it's not worth taking the risk. So since he's come back from injury, he's been benched 4 games and only started 1, which was against Ipswich. So I would say right now, if I had to predict the Arsenal lineup against Bournemouth, it doesn't have Saka in it. The only reason I'm having slight second thoughts is because of the gap in games. Tuesday, PSG, to Saturday, Bournemouth, is quite a long time. Like, Saka could easily play in that Bournemouth game. Then it's Saturday to Wednesday. It's not like it's Sunday to Wednesday. Again, you've got a bit of a gap. Now, obviously, at this point, Arsenal have pretty much got top 5 wrapped up. They will be in the Champions League next year. Winning the Champions League is their main priority. But there's something that just in the back of my mind, now I've seen the gap in games, tells you that maybe Saka starts against Bournemouth or gets decent enough minutes. And then I think whatever happens in that Champions League game, whether they go through or not against PSG, I suspect he'll start against Liverpool as well. Like, you've got a Wednesday, Sunday turnaround. Then you've got another 7 days till they play Newcastle. Then another 7 days until they play Southampton. So if I had to guess right now, I think Saka's starting in 36, 37, 38 if he's fit. And there is a chance he starts in 35. Again, if I was predicting the team, it probably has Saka on the bench. But I don't know if I'm massively confident in that. And then if they get through to the Champions League final, it's 6 days after Southampton. So there's part of me thinking there's no reason to risk players against Southampton, right? Because at that point, Arsenal will have Champions League for next year wrapped up. But also there's nothing to rest them for either. And keeping match fitness and match rhythm is a thing that managers have spoken about in the past. So I think there's a chance, and it's probably a small one, that Saka starts every game remaining. But also, he could be benched for Bournemouth, and Arteta might think, well, I'm not going to risk him for Southampton. What's the point? It's an away game anyway. The league's done. We've got Champions League final coming up. He could be benched. So that's the problem with Saka. It could be great, or it could be bad. And also, that Liverpool away game could be tough. Like, it might be that you think Liverpool's performances will drop, but it could be the narrative that I made up that they're at home. They're going to want to show Arsenal who's boss, why they won the league. So I think I'm still leaning towards selling Saka. I think it's a good move for most people. But I would not be shocked, maybe slightly surprised, but not shocked if he starts against Bournemouth. And then once you get to Newcastle at home, Southampton away, ideally I think you want Saka back in your team. So it probably depends who else you've got. If you've got other priorities to worry about, maybe you keep Saka. But I think for a lot of people, it probably still just about makes sense to sell him. So one midfielder a lot of people are looking to buy this week is Bryan Mbeumo. His price is back up to 8.1 million. The remaining fixtures for Brentford are Man United at home, Ipswich away, Fulham at home and Wolves away. There's no doubles for Brentford, but that also means no blanks. And even if other teams do end up getting doubles, Mbeumo plays Ipswich away in 36. It's a great fixture as a single. And in 35, it's Man United at home, which is just a good fixture on paper. But also, Man United have their first leg of the Europa League semi-final before that match and the second leg afterwards. So there might be some rotation for Man United in that game. It's home. Then you've got Ipswich. Then it's Fulham at home, Wolves away. The fixture run is good. And then you've got all that stuff I've probably said about 157 times this season. Nailed on, 90 minutes, penalties. Pretty decent underlying numbers. Not anything super special, but consistent. He's just a great pick. Like, if you're looking to buy a midfielder this week, he probably is the number one option. And it's going to get to the point where he's talked about by so many content creators and in the FPL community in general. People will start to say the hype's getting a bit too much. And it probably will. But he's on 6.4 points per game. He's got a great fixture run. He's got everything you want from an FPL player. If you're looking to buy a midfielder, I can't see why you wouldn't go for him. The only reason to delay it is they don't play till Thursday for game week 34. So their game against Forest is this Thursday. There could be an injury. So don't rush into it. But by the deadline, you're probably going to want to be buying him. And maybe that's going to be selling Saka. So some of you might be looking for a new cheap forward this week. I think Cunha, Wood and Wissa are going to come up quite a lot ahead of game week 35. And they're all decent options. So Cunha and Wood at 7 million, Wissa at 6.6. When you look at the underlying numbers, taking penalties out of the equation, Wissa has the highest goal threat at 0.54 expected goals per 90. For Wood, it's 0.31. For Cunha, it's 0.28. I know Cunha and Wood have both scored lots of goals, Chris Wood in particular, but the data tells me that Wissa from open play is more likely to get a goal than the other two. But Chris Wood's on penalties, and we think Cunha's probably on penalties as well. And also, when Cunha gets a return, bearing in mind assists are a thing too, and Cunha's the most likely to go and get you an assist, his bonus is great. It's almost a case that as soon as Cunha gets his first return, he's almost locked in the 3 bonus. So they're all good options, and it's quite difficult to split them. For me, if I was buying new this week, I probably wouldn't go for Cunha, simply because he's playing Man City away. Whereas Chris Wood's got Palace away, followed by Leicester at home. And this has got Man United at home, which I've just spoken about as a pretty good fixture, followed by Ipswich away. So I think overall, from now until the end of the season, the fixture runs for all 3 teams are quite comparable. But because Wolves have got to play Man City away literally this week, that would probably put me off Cunha. Not to say he's a bad option, but he's just the least likely that I would go for out of these 3 players. Definitely worth waiting, though, for double game week confirmation. Because if Wolves end up getting a double in 36, all of a sudden you might want to go for Cunha and then move to one of the other 2 afterwards. But even in that case, you're having to use a transfer because of the blank that would happen in 37. Whereas in 36, Wood and Wissa are playing Leicester at home and Ipswich away respectively. So it kind of saves you a transfer. So I think I would ignore Cunha. Then it comes down to Chris Wood and Wissa. I think I would probably take the penalty taker. It's worth saying that both teams have something to play for. Obviously, Forest are trying to get Champions League, and Brentford still have an outside shot of getting into Europe. So I don't think in terms of minutes there's going to be a reduction at all. Chris Wood and Wissa will start every game and probably play as close to 90 minutes in each of them as they can. Whereas with Cunha, I think Cunha will keep playing. I don't think it will matter that he's possibly off in the summer, but there is slight more worry about his minutes than there have been at previous stages this season. Like, we have to factor in that maybe Cunha could get slightly reduced minutes or a benching at some point. I don't necessarily think it happens, but it could. With Wood and Wissa, I just don't see that. So that's where I would go. I guess Chris Wood. Honestly, there's something about having a home game for Brentford this week and then Ipswich away, which I quite like. And then Fulham at home, Wolves away is probably slightly better than West Ham away, Chelsea at home, but there's not much in it. I guess Chris Wood, but if you can't afford it, I wouldn't rip your team up. I wouldn't make a second transfer just to be able to get Wood. I would just buy Wissa instead. It's really close between the 2. I think I would probably buy Wissa, but I think most people should probably just go for Chris Wood, because I've been wrong about him so many times this season. But again, Wood and Wissa both play on Thursday, so wait for your transfers if you can. So just to give some really early thoughts on my own team for Game Week 35, I'm actually pretty happy with how the team is set up off the back of free hit in Game Week 34. So I've got Raya in goal, Bournemouth at home, and then Saliba double up on Arsenal defence. I think both of those players will start against Bournemouth. I spoke earlier about the gap in games for Arsenal. There will probably be some rotation in that Bournemouth game, but I think Saliba will still start. So I'm pretty happy with those 2. Then Munoz against Forest at home and Vardio against Wolves at home make up my back 3. In the midfield 5, it's Sarr and Eze double up against Forest at home, Salah against Chelsea away, Saka against Bournemouth at home, and then Rodgers against Fulham at home. Then up front, it's Isak against Brighton away, and Marmoush, who's currently got the captain's armband, against Wolves at home. I'll come on to that in a second. On the bench, I have got Evan Nielsen, who's currently red flag because he's going to be suspended for 3 games. But maybe this week Bournemouth will appeal and potentially that red card will get rescinded. I'm not sure if it will. I know that he slipped, but I still think they might see that as reckless and the 3-game suspension might uphold. Either way, I wasn't playing him this week against Arsenal away, so I can give myself some time to think about that move. He's on the bench. But if he is suspended for 3 games, I'll probably have to get rid of him. It's really annoying because he's got Leicester at home in 38, but that could be like a Watkins or it could be like a Chris Wood or Wissa or someone like that instead. So let's wait and see. In terms of defence, I don't see any moves happening. They've all got pretty good fixtures. They're all good options in terms of attack and threat and stuff like that. Lots of people on the stream yesterday were asking about, Palace players' minutes because they're in the FA Cup final. I don't think there's a huge issue there. Not for 35 and 36, 37 potentially. But if there's no double for Palace, they've got a 9-day break from their FA Cup semi-final to playing Forest at home. So I don't see why Saranesi wouldn't play. Then it's 6 days until 36, and then it would be 6 days until the FA Cup final. So I think they will play in 35 and 36. And from an attacking point of view, Saranesi, it's Forest at home, Spurs away. I don't mind those fixtures. And I know they haven't done amazing since Game Week 30, but you saw what they were capable of in the FA Cup semi-final. There's good players in there. Like, they can get you FPL returns. So I've got no doubts about Saranesi whatsoever. Mateta owners might feel a bit different because there's lots of good forwards right now. You could go and buy a Cunha, Wood, Wissa, etc. And he does keep getting subbed quite early quite often. Saranesi, I like him. And I don't have the money in the bank to go up to someone like Mbeumo. So I'm all right with them. Salah I spoke about earlier, I'm probably just going to keep hold of him. There's not really anyone to sell him for. And because I've got Saka, he probably needs to go first. So Saka to Mbeumo could be my move. This morning, I'm just having second thoughts about Saka's minutes. But I think I will end up doing Saka to Mbeumo. That also unlocks money. So if I have to do Evan Nielsen up to someone else, then I've got the money to do that. So it's not just about, I don't think Saka will play, therefore I'm selling him. It's also about what the money unlocks. And I'd love Saka for 38 against Southampton away. But that might just have to be something I deal with in Game Week 38. Rodgers is fine. Villa have got nothing else to play for. His minutes have been great all season. They've got no other competitions to play for. They do have Champions League places to try and get. So Rodgers will continue to start. And then Marmoush, if Haaland's back, his minutes probably get reduced a bit, but he could still start. So captaincy will be Marmoush, Salah, or Mbeumo if I bring him in. I'm not sure where I'll land. If Haaland's back and available, that will probably put me off captaining Marmoush. Not necessarily because I think he will be benched, but because I can't guarantee the minutes anymore. And so I'd probably just go safer. Salah against Chelsea, where I suspect I'll talk myself into Mbeumo, captain, because I'll use the narrative that Man United have got semi-finals either side of that game, and Liverpool might have a hangover. And I don't mean literally Salah's going to be drunk or anything stupid like that. I just mean overall the team performance might dip a bit, and that will affect every player, even if it just is like a whole, basically, right? So I'll probably use that excuse to go for Mbeumo and bottle the Marmoush captaincy. But I think most people will go Mbeumo or Salah, so I'm a little bit tempted to go different with Marmoush. But if my free hit's gone quite well, so I don't know how much I need to push it now to get top 50k. So going for like a more obvious captain might be the one. But if Haaland's ruled out, I'll be tempted by Marmoush, even though Wolves are playing pretty well at the moment. So yeah, that's the team. Probably Saka to Mbeumo to unlock funds. Probably holding Evan Nielsen, even if the suspension upholds, because I don't really need him for Arsenal away anyway. And I'm pretty happy with the team. Then we'll figure out what to do ahead of Game Week 36. If there's doubles in 36, that might change my strategy, but not massively, I don't think. Because let's say it's only the Villa Spurs fixture. I've already got Rodgers and Martinez. So I've already got 2 out of the 3 players I can get. So Saka down to Mbeumo, it gets me close to doing Evan Nielsen to Watkins. If I do a second move somewhere else, I can then afford that, or I can just do Isak to Watkins. And if Palace double, I've got 3. If Man City double, I've got 2. So I don't think the doubles are going to have too much effect. I think Saka to Mbeumo is going to happen no matter what. But let's see. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed that, make sure to give it a like and hit that subscribe button. I'll be back tomorrow with transfer tips, so I'll see you then.